Some battles aren't fought in deserts, courtrooms, or battlefields. They're fought in living rooms, at dinner tables, in long car rides, in slow, silent sacrifices made behind polite smiles. The real war isn't always outside. Sometimes, it's in the quiet tremble in your chest when you're around someone who's supposed to be your safe place, but instead, you feel like you're walking barefoot over glass. The deepest wounds don't always bleed. Sometimes they just echo, in the way your voice lowers near certain people, in how your energy drops when their name lights up your phone, in how you're always doubting your own memory after every conversation. That's how they win, not by screaming, but by quietly convincing you that your fire is too much, that your truth is too loud, that your clarity is a threat. And sometimes they are people you grew up with, people who hugged you when you cried, people who once loved you or still pretend to. But remember, not everyone who walks with you wants to see you arrive. Some only walk beside you to control the pace, to slow you down, to make sure you never outrun the version of you they can manipulate. They say things like, "I'm just worried about you," but their eyes are hungry. Their words are laced with guilt. Their concern isn't love, it's a leash. When someone constantly makes you feel like you're the villain in your own story, you must stop defending yourself and start protecting yourself. Because sometimes the people we defend the hardest are the very ones who steal our light the quietest. When character is lost, all is lost. And when you're surrounded by those who constantly fracture your sense of truth, you're not just losing your peace, you're losing the language of your own soul. This is not about hate. This is not about revenge. This is not even about anger. This is about peace. About knowing who drains your spirit, who dims your light in the name of love, who plays both the knife and the nurse. And sometimes, these people are in your inner circle. They laugh with you. They give you gifts. They say, "I'm always here for you." But somehow, you never really feel seen. You leave every interaction more tired than before. You begin to lose pieces of yourself trying to keep their love. That is not love. That is silent erosion. That is emotional poison, served in a cup called a loyalty. That is a spiritual war, disguised as a family reunion. So, how do you see it? How do you stay kind, but not blind? How do you forgive, but not fold? How do you stop mistaking shared history for shared destiny? You begin by noticing the patterns, not the excuses, not the "but they've been through a lot," not the "but their blood," not the "but they're trying." You learn to see what they keep taking from you without needing to hate them for it. You learn to say, "I love you, but I will not die here." You learn to hold your boundaries as sacred ground, because that's where your soul breathes. Now we are going to uncover the 5 signs, the spiritual fingerprints that show someone in your life may be dancing with demons and trying to hand you the music. They're subtle, they're emotional, they're energetic. But once you see them, you'll never unsee them again. 1. The mirror always points at you as some demons don't wear horns. They wear your brother's voice, your mother's touch, your lover's smile. That's the betrayal of evil in its most ancient form. It hides in what's familiar. And before you ever see the demon in them, your soul will tremble inside you. That's the first law. The mirror always points at you. It doesn't mean you're the problem. It means the truth is trying to rise through you. You've been taught to ignore your unease. You've been raised to a be kind, a be understanding, a forgive and forget and forget. But spiritual wisdom, true ancient wisdom, doesn't preach passive kindness. It teaches discernment. When the light comes in, darkness will fight to stay where it hides. The earliest philosophers knew this. They didn't write about demons with wings. They wrote about them as patterns, distortions, energy that infects the home, the mind, the bond between people. It is a path walked in humility, but some people never walk it. They just perform it, like actors in the drama of your pain. They want you to move on because their ego is uncomfortable, not because your soul is. And here's the most chilling truth. I don't say sorry to make peace. They say sorry to keep power. Spot a demon in disguise. Watch what they do after they apologize. Watch how fast they want you to forget. Watch how they make your reaction the problem instead of their betrayal. Real apologies make space for healing. Fake apologies demand your silence. So when you hear "I'm sorry," listen deeper, because sometimes it's not an olive branch. It's a blade, wrapped in the softness of regret, aimed straight at your soul. 3. They drain you, then demand more. There are people who do not walk into your life. They enter like a hunger. They don't remember events, they remix them. They don't reflect on the past, they revise it. Every conversation becomes a canvas they repaint until their hands look clean and yours look stained. A people don't always want the truth. They want a version of it that lets them sleep at night. They will twist moments, manipulate words, and cast shadows where there was once clarity. And if you speak up, they'll say you're overreacting. If you defend yourself, they'll say you're being difficult. If you present fact, they'll say you're being dramatic, emotional, sensitive. And suddenly, you're not just dealing with a person. You're dealing with a historian of lies. They don't need to control you with chains. They control you with confusion. They will smile in public and slice you in private and accuse you of not being supportive. They'll call you the problem for pointing at the problem. And every time they retell a story about a fight, a disagreement, a breakdown, they trim their guilt and amplify your flaws. They do not just rewrite reality. They publish it to friends, to family, to anyone who will listen. They plant the seeds of doubt about you before you even know you're in a war. Some people will burn the truth just to be warm in their own lies. And here's the most chilling part. When you spend enough time with someone who constantly warps reality, you begin to doubt your own memory. You stop speaking up. You stop trusting your intuition. You start apologizing for things you didn't even do. This is not love. This is psychological erosion. In ancient fables and wisdom texts, demons didn't always show up with horns. Sometimes they came as those who used words like weapons, who spoke softly but sharpened silence into guilt. They rewrote the world in ways that slowly undid the soul of others. These people win arguments you don't even know you're in, because they're not searching for truth. They're constructing comfort, even if it buries you. So how do you recognize it? Ask yourself, do they ever take responsibility, or just retell events until they're the victim? Do they listen when you explain how you feel, or do they redirect the blame? Do you feel like you're always the one who's wrong even when you're hurting? Because a healthy person seeks clarity, a toxic one seeks cover. Though the one who lies loudest is often the one hiding the most. Truth should not feel like a battlefield. Memory should not feel like a courtroom. Protect your clarity, guard your truth, and remember, you are not too sensitive for noticing distortion. You are too aware to keep pretending. 5. You feel smaller every time they are around. When your soul starts to shrink in someone else's presence. There are people who don't hurt you with what they say. They hurt you with what you become when they're near. They don't need to insult you. They don't need to scream. They simply exist in a way that makes you feel less than you are. Your voice gets quieter. Your laughter fades. Your dreams sound ridiculous when you try to speak them aloud. And suddenly, your spirit becomes negotiable. The saddest thing about betrayal is that it never comes from enemies. It's a subtle violence, not of fists, but of invisibility. All these people make you question your intelligence, your worth, your beauty, your ambition. And yet they do it in ways so disguised, you end up thinking you're the problem. You start shrinking yourself to fit in their comfort. You edit your voice. You fold your wings. You make your victories small because their egos are too fragile to celebrate them. They don't just drain your energy. They dismantle your light. And when you try to express this, they'll say you're insecure. They'll say you're too sensitive. They'll say you always make things about you. But in reality, being around them feels like trying to stand in a house that keeps lowering the ceiling. If someone doesn't make you feel seen, heard, and valued, you are not loved. You are being used. Now, listen carefully. You were not born to be someone's shadow. You were not born to live under someone else's approval. You were not created to dim so someone else can shine. If every time you're around someone, you feel like the air gets thinner, the room gets colder, and your presence becomes more of a tolerated inconvenience than a treasured gift, you are standing in emotional warfare, not love. In ancient wisdom, it was said, a wicked presence makes the soul retreat. It means the heart knows when it's being suffocated, even if the mind hasn't caught up yet. Because here's the truth. Healthy people nourish you. They celebrate your voice. They grow your ideas. They listen to your laughter and try to protect it. Toxic people, they starve your joy until you forget what joy even felt like. And the reason this is so dangerous is because it doesn't happen overnight. It happens in inches.
Slowly, quietly.
You don't wake up in a prison. You wake up and realize you've been building the walls around yourself for years, at their request. So if someone constantly makes you feel smaller, Ask yourself, what parts of myself do I hide around them? What dreams have I delayed because they made me feel silly? What energy do I lose after every conversation? Your presence is not too much. Your love is not a burden. Your light is not up for negotiation. I never stay in places where you have to shrink to be accepted. You didn't imagine it. That gut feeling you buried, that sense of unease, it was real. It always was. Because when it comes to darkness disguised in familiar faces, our soul notices long before our mind admits it. And that's where it all begins. Not with suspicion, not with accusations, but with awareness. You see, demons don't come with horns anymore. They come wrapped in childhood memories, in shared dinners, in bloodlines, in inside jokes and familiar phone calls. They come wearing the face of someone you once trusted. But over time, their words bend like knives. Their presence feels like fog. Their love is like venom, sweet on the surface, poison underneath. Let's look back for a moment. All 5 signs were never about them. They were always about you, and what you feel when you're near them. 1, the mirror always points at you, because they twist every wrong into your reflection. 2, their apologies are weapons, not healing, used only to reset the chessboard in their favor. 3, they drain you, then demand more. Emotional parasites dressed as people. 4, they rewrite reality in their favor, making you question your memory, your truth, your sanity. 5, you feel smaller every time they're around, because your spirit isn't safe in their shadow. The worst part? They do it in ways so subtle, so calculated, so surgically gentle, you wonder if maybe you're the monster. But you are not. You are not broken. You are not overreacting. You are not too emotional. You are finally waking up. The greatest battles are not fought with fists, but in choosing which voices are no longer allowed to shape your identity. Let that settle in your heart. This is not about hate. This is not about revenge. This is not about rage. This is not about rage. This is about freedom. The most spiritual decision you can make in this life is choosing who gets access to your peace, even if it means letting go of someone you love deeply. So, even if it means walking away from those who share your DNA. Even if it means breaking a chain that's been passed down for generations. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is leave. Because love isn't supposed to hurt like that. Family isn't supposed to make you question your worth. And friendship isn't supposed to feel like a war zone where your soul bleeds silently. You don't need another apology. You don't need another promise. You need clarity. You need your light back. And that light, it returns the moment you stop begging for it to be seen. The moment you stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. The moment you stop letting guilt chain you to pain. Because you are not here to suffer in someone else's illusion. You are here to rise. Oh, so this is your spiritual mirror. Look closely. Listen deeply. Walk bravely. If they dim your fire, distort your truth, and drain your joy, they are not your home. They are your lesson. And now, you're ready to graduate. You don't have to hate them to walk away. You just have to love yourself enough to stop staying. And that will look we'd spot the demons in friends and family. Not to destroy them, but to reclaim yourself. You're not here to be small. You're not here to be silent. You're not here to be silent. You're not here to survive. You're here to awaken. And it starts now.